Hello, this is Dr. Mears. Today we are going to be learning about box and whisker plots. Many of you have learned about this in the past, but I just wanted to give a refresher course, little refresher lesson, I guess, and how to explain box and whisker plots because you will need to do so on your internal assessment for IB. So here we go. Box and whisker plots, also known as box plots, are a useful representation because it divides the data into quarters. We also call them box and whisker graphs. To draw a box and whisker graph, we will need a 5-number summary. What is a 5-number summary? Well, it has the minimum, lower quartile, median, upper quartile, and maximum. All of these can be found using your graphing calculator. The lower quartile is also known as quartile 1. You're going to see that on your graphing calculator. It's going to say Q1. And the upper quartile is also known as quartile 3. And you're going to see Q3. Remember, same concept, different name. Remember, we like to, in mathematics, name the same concept but for different names. So we have box and whisker plots versus box and whisker graphs. We can also call these box plots. I mean, drop the whisker. So who knew? I did. I'm telling you now. Now you know. All right, here's our example. A boating club hosts an annual race. That would be cool to go on a boat. The number of people in each boat are recorded in the table. Let's look at this table. Here's the number of people in a boat. So there's 4 people in a boat. How many boats did we see with 4 people in it? Only 1 boat. We have 5 people. How many boats? So frequency are the number of boats. The number of boats. So there are 16 boats that have 6 people in them. There are 25 boats that have 7 people in them. 28 boats that have 8 people in them. So it's very important to understand what the frequency is when it's not labeled with what it actually is. So that's why I wanted to read through the table and see what the frequency actually represents. And that's the number of boats. And these are the number of people within those boats. So how many boats have 10 people in it? 5 boats have 10 people in it. So, part A, write a statement about the data. Okay, so let's do this. We just kind of looked at the table, so now we can write a statement. So, we have, the table shows the number of people and how many boats have that number in them. Let's give an example. For example, 5 boats have 10 people in them. So I just kind of read this piece of the data right here. This is what you're going to need to do for your IA. You're going to have a table of data. You're going to have to tell me, what does this table show? And you're going to have to give me an example of being able to read the table. It makes for good writing, good statistical writing. Okay, let's get to our box and whisker plot. Part B, draw the box and whisker plot. So first we have to find the 5-number summary using our graphical display calculator. You're going to see this a lot in your book, GDC. That just means graphical display calculator. And that's this calculator that you have. Yours are yellow, which are kind of cool. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to go through the steps with you. And so that you can see, you have these steps already, and most of you have taken the formative where you went through these steps. So on your hot pink sheet that I gave you for the calculator steps, we're going to look. This is a frequency table. It is not grouped. So we're going to use just the frequency table. L1 and L2 is always, L1 is the number of people in the boat. L2 is the number of boats. L2 is always the frequency. So if you can find what the frequency is, you can find what L2 is. So on our sheet, what we're going to do is we're going to press Stat, and we first have to edit, which means we have to put the data in. I already have L1 and L2 in here, but it's not the correct data, so I have to clear it. Put my black box on L1, I'm going to press Clear, and then my down arrow key, it clears it. Do the same thing for L2, clear. Okay. Now I'm going to put my data in. 4, enter, 5, enter, 6, enter. Okay, so that is my number of people in each boat. Let's put the frequency, that's always L2. There we go. Now I'm ready to run a one variable statistic. So I'm going to press stat, something on the screen, sorry. And then I'm going to scroll over to calc because I want to calculate. I want a one variable statistics, that's the first one here, so enter. I now need to tell the calculator where my numbers are. So if you press second L1, it's in L1, comma is my and in L2. Enter. And we get this nice set of numbers. X bar is my mean. I don't need that. What I need is to scroll down, and I'm going to see my 5-number summary. My minimum here is 4. Quartile 1 is 6. Median is 7. Quartile 3 is 8. And max is 10. So let's write those down on our sheet. Minimum was 4. Quartile 1 is 6. Median is 7. Quartile 3 is 8. And max is 10. And these represent the number of people, so 4 people. So the minimum number of people that a boat had in it was 4. Quartile 1, 6 people, 7 people, 8 people, and 10 people. It's always good to tell what the numbers mean. So those are the number of people. Okay, now let's graph the data on a number line, and as you can see, I gave you a nice line down here. So let's write what this represents, the number of people. And you can put in a boat. There we go. And let's do a little scale. I'm going to go from 1 to 10. No, let's go from 1 to 11. My spacing is awful, I'm sorry. Let's erase that. Let's get it a little bit better. So that takes up the whole number line. Nice and neat. Okay, here we go. Okay. 1. Still awful. Thinking about how terrible it is. Sorry, I messed up. 9, 10, and 11. Okay. Well, if I had a piece of graph paper, that would definitely be better spacing. All right. So first, our minimum. Our minimum gets a little point over it, 4. Okay. Quartile 1 over 6 gets a little line. The median over 7 gets a little line, and quartile 3 gets a little line as well. The maximum, just like our minimum, gets a point. And so what these lines are going to do is we're going to connect these lines, and that makes our box. So this box is going to represent part of our data. And then we are going to extend it. Now, a lot of box and whisker plots you're going to see either have a point here or they have another line. IB likes to use the line. Few other books like to use the point. So either way you want, if you want to remember they're all going to be lines, that's fine. Just make sure that you know that you draw the box around the quartile 1, the median, and quartile 3. And that's why I kind of like go with the point, because it helps me remember that the max and the min are only connected by this line. So this is called a box and whisker because this is the box and these are the whiskers. Sometimes in a set of data you might not have whiskers. Quartile 3 could be the maximum. So we'll see. Okay, so let's see what this represents. I am going to flip the paper over. Here we go. So I wrote down some nice notes for you so that we didn't have to, so that you had them all nice and typed up. And it helps us to interpret the data. If you decide that you need to do a box and whisker plot for your data for your IA, I definitely suggest watching this video over or watching the back-to-back box plots, which is the next video that you will see. So remember percentiles? Let's look at this. 25th percentile is called quartile 1, also known as the lower quartile. So that means 25% or 1/4 of the values are between the minimum and the lower quartile. The 50th percentile is called quartile 2, also known as the median. 50% of the values are between the minimum and the median, while the other half lie between the median and the maximum. The 75th percentile is called quartile 3, also known as the upper quartile. 75% of the values lie between the minimum and the upper quartile. Remember, same concept, there's just a few different names. So let's talk quartiles. Let's look at this. 25% of the values lie between the minimum and the lower, 25% between the lower and the median, 25 between the median and the upper, and 25 of the upper and the maximum. Wow, I guess that's why they're called quartiles. They divide the data into quarters. That is so cool. And emoji, smiley face. All right, so what does that look like for us? So let's switch back to the box plot here. All right, so our box plot here, what does that mean? That means that between quartile 1 and the minimum, from here on, 25% of the data lies from quartile 1 to the minimum. We also have from the median to the minimum, we have 50%. Well, that could go the other way too. 50% of the data lies below the median, and 50% of the data lies above the median. Each one of these, from here to here, 25%. From here to here, 25%. From here to here, 25%. And guess what? From here to here, 25%. So now you can add up whatever you need to. So if you want to know what percent of the data lies above quartile 3, 25%. What percent of the data lies above quartile 1? How about that? From quartile 1 over. Well, let's add it up. 25 plus 25 plus 25. So 75% of the data lies between quartile 1 and the maximum. So this is percent of the data. So where's all the data? Well, all the data is between, 100% of the data is between 4 and 10 people. That's how many people we have in a boat. We don't have 3 people, we have between 4 and 10 people, including 4 and 10. Okay, so what does this look like written out in sentences? Okay, in sentences. So 50th percentile, quartile 2, median. So our median was 7 people. So 7 people. So this means that, let's see, 50% of the values are between the minimum of 4 people and the median of 7. Now, you could have said between the median and the maximum. That's absolutely fine. This is where your discretion is going to come in. So this is where you're going to have to make the decision of what percent you're going to want to report on, and that's really going with your data. And are you looking for data that is maximum data, or are you looking for data that's even lower in the minimum? So this is where it kind of comes in. All right, so the 25th percentile. So 25% or 1/4 of the data lies between the minimum of 4 people and the lower quartile of 6 people. And the 75th, 75%, or 3/4 of the data move this up a little bit, lies between quartile 3, which is the upper of 8 people, and the maximum of 10. So this is just one way to use, I'm sorry, let me move it up a little bit. This is just one way to use and to be able to interpret quartiles. There are other ways as well. You could have talked about the 75th percentile from quartile 1 all the way to the maximum. Sorry. 75% of, or 3/4 of the data lies between quartile 3 and the minimum. Made a mistake, caught it. I was rushing because I'm afraid the bell's going to ring. And the minimum of 4 people. The bell's going to ring. I don't want it to ring on you. So, okay. So you could have talked about this anyway. You're going to see me talk about it a little bit differently when we look at back-to-back box and whisker plots. So let's move forward. What I'm going to want you to do is, we have example 2 here. And this is actually from your book. It's about koala bears, and I would like you to draw a box plot to represent the information. Give me a 5-number summary, do the box plot here, and then write me a conclusion. And I want you to go to your book and look up this. There's the bell, told ya. And look up the answer to this, and then show me what you got and get back to me and show me what you learned. Okay, good luck, and I hope this helped. Thanks. Sorry about the bell.